That's terrifying. Mark Zuckerberg's wife is now listening to you. Right. Welcome to Odd Shaped Balls, a weekly look at all things rugby and NFL. So, David, Scottish fan, watching that Italy-Scotland game, that was an emotional experience for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate. They didn't play well, did they? I mean, I really did. In the first 20 minutes, I was genuinely worried that we were going to lose. And then Italy bring on this new winger who looks like a very a promising and aspiring under-12s netball player. And he absolutely runs over Stuart Hogg multiple times. Mm-hmm. And Stuart Hogg looked happy at the end of the game. He was humiliated.
That annoyed me. That him and Finn Russell were having some sort of like, yeah, no, I think we did this pretty well. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Like, you said, was it 4 tries they let in? 3 tries?
Yeah, 3, I think. Yeah, they didn't get.
And like you say, one of them was a 12-year-old netball player. Although I think it gives youthful looking folks everywhere hope. I think he might be my new favorite player in the Six Nations, I think.
Well, considering your penchant for under-20s rugby.
Yeah, he might be. I mean, now that he's graduated into the full men's team, it might be a bit past.
Too old for you.
Maybe. I'd like to see a birth certificate, some sort of passport documentation, anything verifying that he could still technically be in the under-20s team. Although he's smooth enough, which is a bonus.
It's good to know you have a checklist.
And I'm on a checklist.
If you weren't before, you are now. I am one of the more amusing moments of the game, despite all of my love for Finn Russell, was when Hastings was brought on for him, and Finn Russell was trying to tell him what the game was like, and Hastings just went like that as he walked away from him. It's like, yeah, mate, you struggled to beat Italy.
Just
the god status has slipped,
hasn't it, as well? Because I think you're right, that whole thing of like how it's gone from Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg projecting this like new Scottish confidence to this ridiculous level of arrogance that doesn't catch up to how either of them, because neither of them are playing very well.
No.
Like we said last week, is Stuart Hogg in fact shit? I think this week we might have had an answer.
So disappointing. I mean, I don't think he's shit, but he's definitely overrated at the moment. He's definitely not fulfilling what we hoped and wanted him to be at the beginning of the Six Nations. And he was absolutely ran over several times. It just looked like he had absolutely no core strength whatsoever. He went down like a domino.
Went down like he'd been eating dominoes. Oh, 6 pints of heavy and a pepperoni. Oh. You know, I reckon it was like we were saying that, you know, the only way that Wales might beat France is if they all got on the piss at lunchtime. Do we think the Scottish team had just been on the smash?
In Italy, just enjoyed Rome too much.
Yeah. Have they just been like, right, lads, we need to bounce back, get the team spirit going. Finn's out there, limoncellos, sambucas. Because they looked like they weren't interested.
Yeah. Well, they looked happy to have won despite playing dreadfully. So maybe if they had all been drunk, they went, oh my God, I can't believe we got away. We still won despite being drunk. This is hilarious.
Yeah, like
that would be an explanation. I'll accept that.
You know, like when you've turned up sometimes for an away game at like really rank amateur level, you're like, oh fucking hell, we're all steaming here. Jimmy's only got 1 boot. Like he's got his divorce papers in his bag, and you turn up at the ground, and you win, and the bar afterwards you're like, how do we pull that off?
Yeah,
I wonder if that's why Finn and Stuart Hogg were so happy. They're like, I don't think we get away with that.
Yeah, that's the only way it makes sense. It's the only way it makes sense.
Speaking of drunk and getting away with it, do you recall the angry texts you were sending me during the game?
I wasn't drunk. I was just angry.
Emotions flying high. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe read some of them out and see if you stand by some of them still?
All right, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. First one. This is the lowest quality international rugby game I've ever seen. How do you pick a man of the match in this abortion clusterfuck?
I'll stand by that.
This is the man of the match thing was a bit like an abortion in the sense that maybe you don't want it, but we have to have it.
Yeah. I mean, they gave it to Ali Price, and I genuinely was like, "Oh, was he playing?"
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how they managed to give a straight face. They should have given it to the netball guy. He seemed good.
100%. It's like he's 12. He's clearly got some sort of terminal illness, and he's playing international rugby.
Like motor neuron disease.
Yeah, exactly. You get all the awards, mate. You get Make-A-Wish, Man of the Match.
But was he playing because of a Make-the-Wish thing, and then he embarrasses Scotland?
Imagine that. That's it. That is definitely what happened. He's woken up this morning like, Miss Scusi, I would like to play the rugby one more time, just one more time. And he's gone, fuck it, mate, might as well. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, we fixed it for you to play for Italy.
Yeah, he's turned up and just gone, Bisha Basha Bosh, I scored the try. I have a nice day. Stuart Hogg is not so big. I go back up to the hospital now.
I die now.
Yeah.
I die happy.
Yeah, I die happy. I bump a Stuart Hogg like he's a baby bambino face. Now I go have a carbonara and one more round of a chemo, and I go back to the place.
Look, if this isn't true, Scotland should still put it out as if it is the truth.
Yes.
Because that is less embarrassing.
We've got a legitimate. It wasn't our fault. We're very conscientious people.
Look, you wouldn't want us to tackle a dying boy, would you?
Exactly. Because Stuart Hogg can't tackle a dying boy.
It would seem not. Let's move on and talk about happier things. Were there any happier things this weekend? No, there weren't. None. I mean, no happy things.
I mean,
Harlequins won.
Yeah, and didn't Danny Kaye get a card again?
Did he?
I think so. Someone put something out about like it's like another win, another card. Cheers, everyone.
That's 2 weeks in a row for him.
Yeah. He's still got a tremendous amount of fight in him.
Yeah.
Which is which
unlike
is
Stuart Hogg.
Unlike Stuart Hogg, but much more like that Italian fella. Got a lot of fight. Yeah. Danny, I think I wonder what he talks about midweek with the Quins lads who are playing for England. Because like Harry Randall, every time he's in the team, he doesn't set the world on fire. He doesn't do anything different than what I think Danny would do at that, on that stage. And it must be annoying for him. As much as he tries to like zen it out and just, focus on playing for Quins, it must annoy him. It'd annoy me. Wouldn't it annoy you?
Yeah. I'm an incredibly bitter person.
I'm still annoyed at that one guy from primary school who would share his crayons.
I came third at the Hackney Empire Best New Act of the Year Award 2007, and it's still smarts.
Mm-hmm. He had to go all the way to Hackney. Bitterness. It's funny that because you would, on the one hand, you could say, I've got 80 odd caps. I've got a wonderful career. On the other hand, you're thinking
he has got 80 odd caps, but 79 of them were off the bench.
Yeah, and he never bought into that whole thing of closers. Remember when Eddie Jones was trying to rebrand what the bench is?
Yeah,
and he was like, they're not substitutes, there are finishers. And I think he even went to the extent of, for a period of time, he would name the team that would finish the game, not the starting team, to try and like
see that.
Yeah, to try and like.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense if you're bringing on people with like 25 minutes to go, but if you're bringing them on with like 5 minutes to go, that's not quite the same. But I mean, one of the biggest Lancaster mistakes was, of course, when England were absolute, because England and Lancaster, they lost one game a year every year. So they were one winner get away from 4 Grand Slams in a row, but they actually got no titles because despite winning 4 and losing 1, somebody else had a losing bonus point or something. And the one that they were closest to was when the one game they lost was against France, and Danny Kerr got man of the match, was completely in control. They were winning, and Lancaster just took him off because that's what you do in the last 10 minutes. And then Ben Youngs absolutely shat the bed as he did in the World Cup final. So unnecessary last minute subs are probably something that's sticking Danny's claw for multiple reasons.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, the way his England career ended must be one of the worst. Like, you play a game against Japan that let's be completely brutally honest, at that point, none of them probably thought that Japan game meant that much. It was like a run out, and Danny's not played very well, but there's loads of players didn't play very well in that Japan game. And just to have your international career just yanked from you off the back of one performance that especially one where you didn't feel like the stakes were that high. Eddie Jones might say, well, that's the problem. He should have thought the stakes were higher, but I just, in terms of bitterness, that's got like be bitterness level 10. That's like 87% cacao, dark roasted bitterness.
Very cultural reference.
The most Waitrosy thing I've said in the last 20 minutes. It's a very overheard Waitrose statement. Also, speaking of like hating England, so obviously they've lost to Ireland at the weekend. But I think as a Scottish guy, you might counter this, but I reckon of all the teams, Ireland are the team that hate England the most for obvious cultural reasons.
I mean, I suppose it's slightly more recent than Culloden.
Slightly more recent. If we're operating on like 1,000-year timeline, slightly further up, yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody that's the problem with this particular England team. Is I remember Delalio saying like 20 odd years ago, every game for England is a World Cup final because it's their biggest game of the year. It's Wales's biggest game. It's Scotland's biggest game. It's Ireland's biggest game. It's their, so you have to match that intensity because otherwise you will lose because it means absolutely everything to them. And let's not get carried away by England's performance of the weekend. People seem to be saying that they've turned a corner and actually this loss will be the making of them. They still didn't score any tries. But I do think that they have lacked that in being able to get up for the fact that the opposition, that it means everything to them. And apart from obviously there are some warriors in Mara Atuji, Courtney Laws, and I think the new boys have been really good. Freddie Stewart, Marcus Smith, and Randall. I think they have been more exciting than the people that they've replaced. But yeah, there has been a lack of intensity until this game. I mean, the front row did an amazing job against Ireland, but they've been sleepwalking for the last few games. I mean, I know you're not allowed to say anything bad about Ellis Genge, otherwise he'll visit you in your sleep. But he hasn't until going one man down. He didn't play with, and he was being had. And that now he was incredible. But why did it take going down one?
Well, yeah, I think they were scared of being embarrassed because they probably already, well, they must have already known it was gonna be a really hard game. You go down to 14 and 80 seconds in, that fear of being embarrassed at Twickenham, of like it could have been 40, 50 points. And I think that probably kicked a lot of the players into gear. Also, they got away with cheating quite a lot, which
I don't buy that cheating line at all. The front row is
serious place.
That's what playing the front row is. Furlong was shortening his grip in order to try and change the angle of attack each one. So, you know, that type of stuff happens on the front row. So I think Ireland in that context they were just had both physically and intellectually, because they were trying to cheat too. They just weren't very good at it.
Yeah, exactly. And I also wonder if from the other side, sometimes when you have a numerical advantage for a long time, you just think like we should be doing more with it. And for players like Tyke Furlong, who are so good in the open, they can be like mentally a little bit, oh, well, the scrum's going to take care of itself, so I can go off and enjoy galloping around the field. So they maybe don't focus as hard. And you've got another guy who's focusing super hard because they're like, the scrum's the only thing we can control.
Yeah.
And so you end up cheating a little bit better than your opposite number. But the hatred thing from the weekend that I thought about was that's Ireland's biggest ever win at Twickenham.
Yeah.
Right? Record win at Twickenham, which is the statistically hardest place in the championship to win. And all the media are talking about is how brave England are. And I was reading it thinking like, this is why they hate us, isn't it? This is why they hate us.
Yeah. How brave the players with 10 times the amount of money and the 5 times the size player pool to be picked from. How brave those little gallant, unprepared fellas were. Yeah, it is nauseating.
Yeah.
But it was a passionate performance and it was good, but they still got, you know, well beaten. It wasn't even close at the end, you know. And where are these tries going to come from? That's what I want to know. Why is Max Malins inside?
That's a head scratcher. That's kind of like, well, I heard someone saying that it's like him and Jack Noel do a lot of work off the ball and they're good in the air.
Well, they serve in the stadium. They pull a few pints.
It's got a hell of a refreshment game. That's hilarious. There's a lot of work off the ball. McDonald's mostly.
Checks the tires on the coach.
Yeah, exactly. Sneaky hand jobs, you know, off the ball. Load of off the ball work.
I mean, I don't think Knowles had any chance in space over the weekend because of his dual duties of also being in the scrum, but
should you enjoy that much? Should a winger enjoy being a flanker that much?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like the best international wingers in the world, would they really enjoy being a flanker?
No, I suppose, yeah, you make a point. Yeah, well, you know, he's like he liked his opportunity to prove that he was a real man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A real boy.
Well, I've been wearing the scrum cap for 20 years. It's all in preparation of this.
I mean, it was dangerous to put the second most fragile man on the face of the planet in the forwards. Yeah,
the only thing could have been if you'd have dug Manny Tuolangi part of his grave and stuck him in there.
Yeah,
that'd have been your only.
Yeah, I mean, next week's going to be interesting. It's my birthday, and I've got a horrible feeling that both my nations are going to lose.
Mm-hmm. So, because England, like you're saying, try scoring. England in Paris is going to be that's tough to see them scoring tries in Paris. Because the one thing that French performance was probably like I text you, probably the most French thing they've done in the last 18 months. Like they very nearly hit Le Self-Destruct, which sounds sounds like a great after hours bar in Paris, but they very nearly just threw it all away, apart from how good their defense was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they weren't firing on all cylinders. Neither were Wales. I mean, this whole thing about all the losing teams should have been happy this weekend. I love Dan Biggar as a person, but you know, he doesn't use the talents of the back three because he has an amazing back three. Every time they get the ball, you think they might score a try, which you can't say for England's present wingers. And yet he doesn't distribute the ball to them. And I know that their tactic was to meet France's kicking game head on, but it just meant that it was a lot of ping pong. And you know, you've got these incredibly talented back three, and they do have a little bit of a problem with their centres in a similar way to England. But just get the ball in their hands in space, see with it, because I think more times than not they're going to score for you.
Oh yeah, they look super dangerous one-on-one. It was making me think about Stuart Hogg, actually. I was thinking, like, which other teams, where would Stuart Hogg replace the current player in another Six Nations team? Because I was thinking about like Liam Williams at the moment is head and shoulders above. Sort of like where Stuart Hogg would be. I think, so the interesting thing about the kicking game stuff was to do that effectively, you have to be able to be super lethal when you counter-attack. So France at the minute are super lethal when they counter-attack. It's like 2 passes, score. And if Wales had pulled off that crossfield kick, Faletau back inside Jonathan Davis, if that comes off, like, because I think that would have brought them level, or they would have taken the lead at that point. And that would have been an instance of Dan Biggar. It was a kick pass, but distribution, going wide, finding a hole in France's defense. And I would have been fascinated to see how France reacted to that.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, we haven't seen them really up against it. It's the closest. This game is the closest we've seen to them being up against it, and you basically can sum that up to Wales stopped them being as exciting as they'd like to be, but they still comfortably won. But yeah, had that Jonathan Davis try happen, then we'd have really seen whether France have changed, or whether they went
So do you reckon, what does Sean Edwards do in the video session? Does he administer a light spanking for everyone? Do you have to, like, blindfolded paddle?
Something like that, I imagine. I don't think he'd be that angry with them because they bent but didn't break. You know, they were resilient. I mean, let's not pretend they did win, and that, you know, yes, it would have got very close had Wales scored the try, but only got close, and they didn't.
And they didn't. And let's not forget, they didn't. That is a funny thing about sport, isn't it? Like, these small margins just change stories so dramatically. And let's say France do win a Grand Slam, no one's going to look back in 5 years, 10 years, or even 2 years and be like, "Oh, but that Wales game was a bit closer than they would like."
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, on such margins, like I say, you know, every one of the 4 Stuart Lancaster Six Nations campaign were only 1 loss away from Grand Slams, but that, you know, he still comes out played 4, lost 4 as far as tournaments are concerned. He didn't win 1 Six Nations, but had point differences been slightly different, even with the win count, he could have come out with 5 titles.
Yeah.
So it's because I don't think mathematically France can lose against England and win the Six Nations. It's Grand Slam or bust, unless Scotland beats Ireland, which isn't going to happen.
Yeah. No. Is that Murrayfield or Dublin?
Dublin, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, zero hope. That's going to be. I'm good. I said to my brother at the start of this, actually before Six Nations, I was like, we should get tickets to the England-France game. Not because I thought England were going to have a chance of winning a Grand Slam in Paris, but because I think it's easy to take for granted that France is going to be good until the World Cup and they'll win another Six Nations. But you don't know. They might fall apart. And I feel like this weekend in Paris is going to be something really special.
Yeah, let's hope that England build on their heroics when they are up against it before they get somebody sent off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great players, and they just, as I've said before, they're not the sum total of their divided parts.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be even harder for England as well without Tom Curry and maybe without Carl Sinclair.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Big losses. What do you think Tom Curry does when he's not playing international rugby? In my mind, he just sits in the dark, just the lights off.
I find it very unlikely that he reads.
No, he's just sat there with his phone, but his phone's off. There's nothing on it. I think in my head, he sits in the dark, vibrating, and then an alarm goes off, and it's time to eat. And someone like throws him food, just throws him a protein shake, and just like.
On the subject of on small margins, I mean, the difference in quality between him and his twin, it's not huge, and yet one of them is first on the game sheet international, and the other one doesn't even get in the squad.
It's weird, isn't it? What do you reckon Christmas is like at their house, or like their birthdays? And Tom's like, "Oh yeah, Mum and Dad, I've got you guys, and I paid for an extension on the house because things are going well." And Ben Curry's like, "I've got you these toothpicks because that's all I can afford."
A Boots voucher.
Yeah, it's expired.
It was always the worst back in the days that you get paper vouchers in cards. It was basically somebody saying, I don't really know you well enough to buy you a present that you will like, but I do know you well enough that you can't be trusted with money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to give you cash because you'll spend it on drugs. So I got you a Boots card.
So you can spend it on legal drugs. You can't get meth, but you can make meth.
Yeah. So I've also got you a library card.
Yeah, exactly. So you do a bit of the work and
enjoy, earn your high.
Exactly. That's what I've always said. Get as high as you like, just do a bit of reading first. As long as they're learning, that's the important thing.
Have we covered the Six Nations in shit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Did you I'd actually watched the Quins game of the weekend. Did you have any
I dipped into it, but I was so cultural. I'd paid for the 1 day pass to watch the Quins game, but then at the last minute, a friend of mine phoned me with a last minute ticket to see the Merchant of Venice at the Globe Theatre. So I'm afraid I turned my back on the mighty Quins. I then thought, I've paid for this, I should watch it, but I knew the results by then, so dipped in and out.
Unlike the Merchant of Venice, which was a complete surprise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Turns out that Porsche is quite the little minx. I saw that coming.
Yeah, exactly. One of his more underrated plays, I would say, Merchant of Venice.
It's problematic. I mean, if you're racist, I can imagine it's a big favourite.
Interesting. I mean, we're getting massively away from the subject matter of this podcast, but it's interesting. Are you allowed to write bad characters, or what's the moral responsibility around writing bad characters?
Well, I think the morality of Merchant of Venice is highly questionable because they're all bad. Mm-hmm. So it does make it very difficult, I think, to root for anyone. Um, Portia in this particular, this is completely off subject matter, was played more as a bit of a minx with a bit of a bad side, which made her a more of a sort of charismatic villain than in normal productions where she's played as this pious woman, but then does this really horrible thing because she could just stop when she could stop when she outfoxes Shylock, says that you can have your pound of flesh but not one drop of blood. She could stop then, but she chooses to take his house, make him convert to Christianity, just humiliate him. So she's just as bad as, so even the victorious, even after the whole Mercy is not strained, she's still just as nasty and racist as the rest of them. So it really is hard to root for anybody in it. So yeah, you can write bad characters that are morally bad, but when everybody in a whole play, there's not one that you go, I'm rooting for them. It makes it problematic. I don't think it should not exist. It's just, it's difficult. I don't know if you know the end of Two Gentlemen of Verona, but in that, one of the gentlemen of Verona walks in on his best friend trying to rape his girlfriend, doesn't say anything about the rape whatsoever, and is just really happy to be reunited with his best friend. So I like to call that play Bros Over Hose.
Speaking of which, that, believe it or not, this is going to be an excellent segue into the NFL. Because not only have we got, Bros Before Hose, we can talk about Pittsburgh, but then in terms of morally reprehensible villains who could have mercy on everyone and chose not to, Tom Brady's back.
I thought you were going to go with the fact that the criminal sexual offence charges on the Texas quarterback have been dropped.
Yeah. No, on Thingy Watson. No criminal charge to answer. I was trying to keep it lighter than that and just talk about my hatred of the league's collective hatred of Tom Brady. So is it a coincidence? So he was watching Cristiano Ronaldo in Manchester score a hat-trick, and then the next day says, I'm not retired. I'm unretiring.
I don't know. I knew he came to Britain to talk to the Glazers, didn't he? There's this talk that he actually wanted out of Tampa Bay, and the whole thing was some sort of call their bluff, and they went, no, you either play for us or nobody, we own you, which seems strange, because if that is true, if he did really think that he'd call their bluff hoping that they would trade him, and they've said, no, you're us or nobody, how's the atmosphere going to be like when he comes back this year? With people knowing he tried to get out of town.
I think with players, honestly, I think he has such an aura that I think other players, bear in mind, this is a guy who's been an open Trump supporter, kisses his kids on the lips, and all the play. Yeah, it's so disgusting. And all the players in the locker room are still like, well, he'll probably win us a Super Bowl, so it's fine. So I reckon this ranks below open Trump support and lip kissing. Child lip kissing. which is going to be the title of his autobiography if he ever gets around to writing one.
Open mouth Trump kissing.
Open mouth Trump kissing. Tom Brady's secret to success. Yeah, exactly. I reckon all players are just like, well, we've got a chance. If Tom's in the building, we've got a chance of winning.
Yeah. Well, they haven't had everybody come back. Their offensive line is depleted. I'm quite happy, because I wasn't happy with him going out on top, going out looking strong and retiring with dignity. I want a decade of him getting shit. And there being talk about them being replaced by but him being pulled out of a game and replaced by Hoyer halfway through a game.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want him to have that they can't cut him, but he won't leave, and he just absolutely destroys a franchise through his own arrogance and hubris. That would be. I want as long of that to last as long as his prime.
I think you and every Jets fan. I feel like Jets fans must have heard the news that Tom Brady was unretiring, and it must have been like seeing Freddy Krueger walk back into your dream. Like, no, I thought you were dead.
I'm happy for him back because he's not. Oh, scary last words.
I was gonna say, yeah. Because you wonder, you write him off at your peril, don't you?
Yeah.
But I agree. I agree with the sentiment of wanting Tom Brady to fail. It would be nice to see a 5-year decline and then some sort of horrific leg injury.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
No one likes to see terrible concussions and head injuries for other players.
Yeah, exactly. There's the Tom, much like the tuck rule was a unique thing brought in to help Tom Brady win games. The CTE for Tom. God, that's a horrible thought, isn't it? But yeah, so he's back. It's quite an interesting thing just to be like, imagine how good you'd have to be at your chosen profession just to be like, you're just going to keep a spot for me. Because like Tampa haven't made any moves, have they? They didn't make any moves for any quarterback. So they must have been like, we will wait until the very last second for this guy. And if he says yes, he's in.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, although people say that this is a weak class, we as we've said before, the one thing that we know for certain is that no scouts know anything for certain. So I think they probably went, there's nothing on the market better than getting a low first round pick quarterback. So what's the point? I mean, what do you think is going to happen with Deshaun Watson?
He's going somewhere.
Pittsburgh got over the fact that Roethlisberger is quite evidently.
Oh, mate!
We can't say rapist, can we? So let's say rapologist.
Yeah, rapier. Yeah, allegedly Ben's lawyers. So yeah, they lived with that for 20 years. Like Jameis Winston had those like very, very serious allegations all the way through college. Jameis Winston was featured in a documentary called Hunting Ground about predatory behavior at Louisiana State University. So and he's played, and he's not even good. He's played in the league for 10 years without hanging over him. Like you could get on the list. It's an old joke, isn't it? You get on the list of like NFL players with either assault charges or domestic abuse charges or whatever, and the league just forgets. I actually think the less he's in the spotlight, the more people will forget.
Yeah,
I think he could.
Well, I think the fact that I think it's worse for him because didn't Roethlisberger almost come straight back, and as soon as they start playing again and start winning new games, I'm like, let's not talk about the nasty thing. He's winning games. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure somebody will go. I mean, he was such an exciting player to watch. I kind of hope that it's just not true because I want to be able to watch him and enjoy it again.
Well, but you say that Giants still haven't got a quarterback.
How dare you?
I mean, now that Mitch Trubisky's landed in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Like their odds went up from, I don't know why Vegas rates this kid so highly, but their odds of winning a Super Bowl went up from like 500 to like 5 out of 10 to 7 out of 10, basically.
I think they'll still their pursuit of a quarterback. The good thing about Mitch Trubisky, if he is your opening quarterback, is that they're either right that he was only rubbish in Chicago because the setup was rubbish, and now he's in a great setup, things will turn around. Or they're wrong about that, and they will have a top 5 pick next year.
Interesting. Yes. Because I didn't actually look at what the deal is. I don't know if they've released the details of the deal. Because if it's like because the other wild thing is when you play for Pittsburgh, you're one of 5 quarterbacks. Or they've
got 5 quarterbacks on their roster.
No, sorry, as in like there was, in terms of the number of people who started in that job.
Oh, right.
Because they have like a 20-year run as a quarterback in Pittsburgh.
I'll say now, Mitch Trubisky isn't going to have a 20-year run,
which is then what's really interesting. I think probably Mike Tomlin and the front office has done the math you were sort of talking about, which is if it's a choice between a 4-year veteran who understands the NFL that I can work with and a punt on a so-so draft class, I'll take the 4-year veteran that understands the NFL and I can work with.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, some people believed in him. I mean, Chicago absolutely sold their future to trade up for him. So, people must see something in him. But yeah, it's kind of baffling it's kind of baffling how the position seems so difficult.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a bigger talent pool, considering how many colleges there are?
I think about that all the time. The struggle, I don't think there's a comparable struggle in sport to find 32 people to play a position at an elite level. I wonder if it's because the confluence of the mix of skills required is so extreme.
And also the psychological pressure.
Yeah.
As well as the physical pressure, the fact of getting the ball away in under 2 seconds, making a decision that quickly, and knowing how overly important you are in comparison to everybody else on the pitch. I mean, it's the same pressure as being at like an opening England cricket batsman, but also having 11 200 men wanting to beat the shit out of you in the same moment. In 2 seconds.
Exactly. It's more like having 4 fast bowlers bowl at the same time, and you have to pick which ball to hit.
Yeah,
in that 2-second window. I think you're right.
And those balls are 200 pounds heavy
each, and they don't just want to hit your stumps; they want to break your legs. That's what those balls are paid to do. Yeah, the psychological aspect combined with the physical aspect, I think, is what makes that unique in sport. And also, like, as the NFL's transitioned to more of a passing league, like you say, the over reliance on that position has just increased year on year. And if anything, as much as we joke about hating Tom Brady, it makes you I'm not sure.
Say anything nice about him.
Well,
don't do it.
It's just like say what you will about Goebbels, but you have to. This is like the achievement that like what he's achieved in 20 years. I'm not sure in any sport that's ever been no one's even come close.
Look, we're going to find out that he has somehow cheated somehow. He's from another planet. He's replaced his blood with an 18-year-old's every year.
And they're all
something's wrong here.
Yeah. This is where like everyone for years was like, well, not everyone, but people like Alex Jones were saying there's a pedophile island and the rich go there. And everyone's like, shut up, Alex. Then it turns out it's real. This is going to be like the Illuminati's real. No, it's not. And it turns out, actually, Tom Brady's been doing satanic magic for 20 years. And that's why he's got a supermodel wife. His face has changed shape since he was 21 or whatever the fuck. Like, he's performing at a level that shouldn't be physically possible and has had more success than anyone in any field has ever dreamed of. And the exchange for that is he's been killing a lot of kids.
Wouldn't surprise me. In fact, it surprised me if it came out that Tom Brady hasn't killed any children.
It would surprise me if the opposite was true. So you're telling me this is just hard work, dedication, and a freak Saturday?
He's not a lizard. He's not a lizard.
No.
Fuck off.
Fuck off. He is reptilian, my friend. What do you mean he's not a lizard? There you go. That's the episode title. What do you mean he's not a lizard? Actually, do you know that you're 100% right, David. The burden of proof is on Tom Brady to establish that he's not a lizard person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not for us. We don't have to prove he is.
No, we know he is.
We know he is.
We've got our truth.
Yeah, 100%. Right, you and me to the Capitol. Let's go. Bring your bagpipes. I'll bring my little hat. Off we pop. Tom's already there.
One of his visions is.
Yeah, exactly. The hologram he calls Tom. Imagine that. Tom Brady is a dimension hopping lizard person. There we go. We're breaking news on the pod.
Well, you say breaking news. I think there's a large amount of society that had already come to terms with this.
Have you ever watched any of those videos on YouTube? They're amazing.
Of Tom Brady.
I'll send you the links. There's a whole series of YouTube videos where evangelical Christians and QAnon folk are proving that demons are entering celebrities' bodies.
Wow.
So it's like amazing footage where like it's stuff it's like, and you'll watch here as the light in his eyes changes, and it's like it's just a camera flare, or it's just like the lighting in a studio or something. Like, this is the moment at which the demon enters the body, and you'll notice after that he sneezes twice, which is the sign of the beast.
I mean, it would be suspicious if he sneezed 666 times. That would be suspicious.
Yeah, it would be. All right. I mean, I'm all in. Maybe this is our camp. So maybe when the season starts, this is our little. We can do lizard watch.
Which NFL quarterbacks have become lizards?
Yeah. It's like if Baker Mayfield suddenly starts,
being good.
Yeah.
You know that it's because of a satanic ritual.
100%. And there is no other explanation.
No. Well, if Daniel Jones becomes good,
and he also looks like a Children of the Corn. And he's already got that like one of us kind of blank stare.
It would explain a lot.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like Daniel, why are there so many small children's clothes in your locker?
Look, Daniel, we've got to defend Daniel here. He's not killed any children yet because he isn't any good.
Yeah, yet. Speaking of...
Oh, no, you're frozen.
Am I back?
Is it me defending Daniel Jones that's made you freeze?
No, this is the...
that is worrying.
This is the Illuminati. They're coming in.
Oh,
the Illuminati are in. They've heard. We're not okay with this going out.
I mean, it's suspicious, isn't it? We've had no problem with the reception whatsoever.
Yeah.
And we cracked the problem of the Illuminati.
And then all of a sudden, this is it.
The internet breaks down on us.
This is how we get to 1 million views. We're a QAnon podcast now. Like, all future pods will be done from the basement of a pizza shop where we're trying to establish whether or not Daniel Jones has been...
Daniel Jones is innocent of child murder until he starts to play well, and then we'll know that something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Salem witch trials, where they would throw you off a cliff and be like, "Well, if you fly, you were a witch, and if not, you're dead." It's like either you're gonna get cut or you're a lizard person. They're your options.
Foolproof.
Yeah, I think so.
So have you been enjoying your legal tampering period?
My legal tampering period. Oh, what a great name. What a great name. Such a boring thing. Americans are great at that, aren't they? Like,
yeah,
you could just call it like your non-contract or contractually, available discussion time or whatever. Legal tampering period. Or as I like to call it, the Italian under 20s. What do you reckon? Do you reckon people get emails with that on it? Do you reckon people get emails with like, given that we are in the legal tampering period, I would love to invite you down for dinner. Love to go for yeah.
Re-tampering brackets legal.
Re-tampering brackets legal. Do we know when the dates are?
We have entered it.
We haven't.
I felt it. Did you not feel us entering the legal tampering period?
Yeah. I should have had it marked on my calendar, I guess.
I don't need to have it marked down, mate. I can feel it in my waters.
Second day. When David's out on the prowl. Oh my God, it must be the legal tampering period. You see his mustache? What sort of overture would you make to a player during a legal tampering period? If you're a front office, New York Giants, what would be your legal tampering period email or phone call?
Well, if you pick up a frog, because it's cold-blooded, your hot blood will cook it. So I would just go up to any NFL player and put my warm-blooded hand on their face and see if it makes them visibly uncomfortable. And then I'd know they were a lizard person and I'd get them on side. Brilliant.
That is the best use of the legal tampering period. I'm allowed to touch you. It's legal. We're tampering, but it's totally legal. And I'm going to establish whether or not you have the Illuminati skills required to take us to the promised land. Genius. I don't think there's a better...
Why do they make putting these NFL rosters together so complicated?
Just get... Right. We need an offshoot of the pod. Oddballs Consultancy. Success in 3 hand gestures or less.
3 strokes or less.
3 strokes or less. So we're just taking it from my Tinder profile onto the...
Well, I wouldn't like anybody to think that it was a golfing podcast. Because that is a pastime for perverts.
It really is. Golf is the most overly sexualized sport on the planet. 100%. I was watching it with my dad the other day. Legit thing. There's commentators almost like, yeah, you can see he's really enjoying that thicker shaft. Oh, he's moving the head with his hips, not just his hands. That's very good. Very impressive. It's just all the whole chat in golf is just shaft, balls, grip, shank.
You disgust me.
The sport disgusts me. It's just a bunch of...
Why are we watching it? This is... When I found out that you had a thing for under 20s rugby players, I mean, look, I can work with this. Now I found out you watch golf.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck you.
Well, it's,
How dare you ask me to do a project with you and you didn't reveal that you had this type of disgusting character? Fuck you.
Yeah. That's it. This is going to be out in the open. We're going to have to issue a statement. This isn't who I am. This is a learning moment for me. This is a teaching moment. I won't be watching golf again. This is something that I'm going to have to deal with privately, and hopefully get the power of the lizard people to overcome.
Okay.
We'll issue that out to the public, David. We'll make that.
If you could.
We'll make that clear.
I feel dirty.
That's the clip this week. Just you staring into the camera going, I feel dirty. Right. Anything else you'd like to get off your chest before we wrap up?
No.
Because after
We've covered most things.
I think we have covered most things. So we've established
we worked out that Max Malins is on the side because he waxes the team's coach.
Yeah.
As in he cleans the thing they travel in, not that he polishes Eddie Jones.
No, I think it can be both. How do you think he got the second job?
What changes would, if any, apart from obviously somebody else playing at lock, would you make for England's side against France? I'll go first. I wouldn't change anyone apart from Max Malins, and I would bring in the young Newcastle flyer, Radwan.
Yeah, I'd love to see something like that. I'd love to see a positive change like that really set the intent and said, like, we're going to really rip into this team. We've got nothing to lose. We can't win the championship. We've got nothing to lose. We're going to have a real go at them. And, you know,
I'd keep Merchant at 13.
Mm-hmm.
Marchant. Yeah, I'd keep everybody else. I'd keep everybody else. Obviously, you might have to replace Sinclair, but there's an obvious understudy there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Without Tom Curry, what would be your back three?
I would go Laws, Simmons, and what's the word on Sam Underhill's fitness?
Yeah, well, he's back in the squad, but yeah, I mean, I imagine that he can't be utterly match fit, otherwise. I would have thought he would have come straight back in. See, I'd bring Courtney Laws back into the second row.
Yeah.
And my back row would be, if all fit, Simmons, Dunbrand, Underhill.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. I think really positive, attacking mind.
Jack Willis is back in the squad.
I know he is, and that would be a huge good news story if that came about. That would be a real like positive news story for rugby, because that kid's been going. If you're watching his journey, he's documented the whole thing on Twitter and TikTok, like his journey to get back.
Oh, thank God, he's documented it on TikTok. God, that's almost as disgusting as watching golf. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I was aroused. So, right, we're gonna have to wrap up there.
I'm gonna go visit my parents. What are you doing with the rest?
I am gonna see my little niece and my sister. Very wholesome. We've got very wholesome days. This has been another episode of Odd Shaped Balls. Until next time.